Geoff Dennis is joining us right now to talk about all the big developments that have been transpiring world over and give us his perspective on the same. Geoff, hi, and thank you so much for coming on board. Let's straight first talk about what Donald Trump has said. Firstly, the meeting between Xi and Donald Trump has been put off till April, and now he's saying that, of course, in the next 3 to 4 weeks, perhaps when the meeting happens, there will be a final clarity on the trade deal. Can we expect some positive news as an outcome? Because going by what has been happening over the last few weeks, there is a lot of optimism with respect to how the two countries are coming together to work out a deal.
Yes, I think there will ultimately be a deal between the U.S. and China. I think it's in both governments' interests to get that deal. It's just that I think it's very complicated and there's a lot of issues involved, and obviously not just about tariffs. It's all to do with intellectual property as well in particular. So perhaps all we're hearing now is the deal is going to take a little bit longer to achieve than previously being anticipated, so obviously it makes perfect sense to postpone the summit until April. But I don't think there's any clear sign here that the talks will fail, which would obviously mean more tariffs down the road. So I think it's just a delay. And I think the markets are right. They're sort of pricing in a likely deal, and I think that's right. There's obviously a risk that could be incorrect, but I don't think a delay is a particular concern, and I fully expect there to be a deal eventually between the U.S. and China.
Geoff, if you also shift focus and now look at what's happening on the Brexit front, they've actually voted to delay the entire Brexit date. Do you see a longish date, or do you see them EU not agreeing till June 30th, or rather they will ask them to exit European Union at around May, April-ish?
I think that's so hard to call as well. I mean, I think there's no point in having a delay in Brexit that only lasts a month or so. Obviously, the purpose of a delay would be to try and get a deal from the EU for the UK, which can get through the UK Parliament, which, by the way, because the Parliament is so split, is going to be very, very difficult indeed. But I think we got to the point with the various votes and the inability of Mrs. May to get through her plan through the Commons. It became inevitable that we would have a delay. And my own hope is that the delay is long enough that you can have the possibility of getting a new deal or an amended deal over the time period. Now, what's interesting is look what sterling has done. Sterling has rallied quite a long way from its lows of late last year. I think the markets are increasingly beginning to think that there is a growing prospect, growing possibility, perhaps I should say, of there being a second referendum. So what we've done here now is apparently we've eliminated the risk of crashing out of the EU without a deal, i.e. a no-deal Brexit. We're going to look for agreement from the EU on an extension, and then it's a question of can we get an agreement, or ultimately does this have to be a general election and another referendum? So there's still a long way to go here, but the risk of a no-deal Brexit, of course, is diminished substantially, and I think that's what's going on here.
Right. Geoff, really appreciate you sharing with us your views and insights on the